This presentation is titled Unpacking the SOLs. It was originally developed by Mrs. Julie Curry for a variety of professional development presentations for K-12 teachers in our region. With her permission, I have tweaked it for our use in the EDU 200 class. Let's look into the future to see that wonderful day when you've graduated college and secured your first teaching job. Finally, what you've worked for so hard, your own classroom. You move your personal belongings into your desk, water the new plant you just put in the window, sorted through the books and supplies, you even checked your brand new school email. What now? The first question you should ask yourself is, what am I supposed to teach these kids? Back in the day, teachers relied on the textbooks and the textbook publishers to guide them as to what they should teach and how. There are only a few textbook companies, and they all write their textbooks for Florida, Texas, and California. Those are the biggest states with the most customers, and all the other states would be stuck with them too. Do you really want the textbook publishers dictating what you teach? Welcome to standards-based education. The standards were put in place so teachers would know the what of teaching. Unlike popular belief, the standards were not written by political bureaucrats in Richmond. Teams of veteran master teachers were selected to write them, and teams of different teachers periodically spend much of their summers reviewing them, helping in developing test questions and doing test question analysis. I don't know about you, but I trust their professional judgment far more than the textbook publishers. In fact, as a brand new teacher, right out of college, I trust their professional judgment far more than my own. And when I walk off that graduation stage and into my first classroom in my first year of teaching, I'd be plenty glad those standards were there to guide me. Now let's not confuse the SOLs with SOL testing. They are not one and the same. Remember, the SOLs are the academic standards we want our students to achieve. They were agreed upon by teams of veteran teachers. The SOLs are our friend. They guide us so we know what we're supposed to teach. We still get to decide how we're going to teach. The SOL tests, on the other hand, are designed to measure whether or not the students learned what they were supposed to learn, and, as follows, whether or not we taught it effectively. We have already looked at the need for assessment and the fact that assessments guide instruction. We have also looked at the need for accountability. We can argue whether or not the SOL tests are effective measures of a student's learning or a teacher's instruction, but that's an exercise in futility. The SOL tests are not going away anytime soon, so rather than fight them, learn to work with them and use them to your advantage. True story. My colleague, I'll call Mrs. H., taught 4th grade before the SOLs came about. And in social studies, she taught a big unit on American Indians because it was in the social studies text and she loved doing it with the kids. They spent weeks on it, reading books, making costumes, playing Indian games. They even had a classroom teepee. Enter the SOLs, and guess what? The unit on Indians is part of 3rd grade. And Mrs. H., she's still teaching it. She says, because I've always taught it, why should I change? And because she says, I love this unit, and the kids do too. I submit that Mrs. H. is doing the students a disservice by not preparing them for the SOL tests she knows they are going to face. Another true story, this time from my own class. I was teaching a group of 4th graders, and knowing that fractions is a difficult concept for kids this age, I spent a lot of time teaching it. We played games, we drilled, we did worksheets, we even challenged Mr. Mingle's gifted math class to a challenge. My kids knew fractions. They could add them, they could subtract them, they could even use mixed fractions like 3½ plus 6 5/8. I was confident they would fly through the SOL test with flying colors. I couldn't wait to brag about it. Then comes the big day, the SOL test. Now, what is that biblical scripture? Pride cometh before a fall. What you see on the slide was one of the questions on the SOL test, and there were more like it. Pictures! I didn't teach that. Had the question been written for them, 2/4 plus 1/3, I knew my students could have answered it. But pictures? They were being asked to interpret pictures. Yes, interpret. That's not memorizing facts for the SOL test. Isn't that pretty high up on Bloom's taxonomy? All but 1 or 2 of my students got every fraction question wrong on that test, and it wasn't their fault. It was mine. I didn't teach it effectively. I lost sleep over that one. Again, welcome to standards-based education. The first step is determining what the student should know and be able to do. And where do you get this? The textbook? No. You have something better. You have the SOLs, and they're available to you on the Department of Education website. You'll want to explore this website thoroughly. I will give you specific instructions on how to find this, but when you do, this is what it's going to look like. The standards themselves are available to you in both Word and PDF format. There's a start, but if you take time, you'll find there's a whole lot more resources available to you. Curriculum frameworks, blueprints, enhanced scope and sequence lesson plans, SOL institutes for your own professional development, released SOL tests, and additional resources. This is the curriculum frameworks. I've chosen a 3rd grade social studies SOL for this demonstration, but the concept is the same no matter the grade or the subject. The essential knowledge is what the factual knowledge the students must know for the SOL. But look over at the essential skills. Those are higher up on Bloom's, and these are the skills the students must have. This is where my teaching was ineffective on that fraction unit. I never taught the essential skill of interpreting pictures. I focused on the essential knowledge of calculating the problem to arrive at an answer. The essential questions are there for you to use with your students. These questions may be used to stimulate student thinking and classroom discussion. The essential understandings is for you, the teacher. This column includes background information necessary for answering those essential questions and acquiring the essential knowledge. Teachers should start here and use this as a basis for planning. The blueprints are the test blueprints. Much like the blueprint for a building, a test blueprint serves as a guide for test construction. The blueprint indicates the content areas that will be addressed by the SOL and the number of items that will be included by content area for the test as a whole. If you see that there are more questions on history and geography than civics, then this will help you determine where you should spend more of your time. This is just one part of a much more detailed document. By the way, this is subsumed SOL test items means they are tested under another SOL which has similar content. You'll see this more clearly when you spend time reading the blueprints for your particular subject and grade. And the field test items are questions that are included on the test but will not count for or against the student. The questions themselves are being tested for validity and may be used on further SOL tests down the road. Also available on the Department of Education website is the enhanced scope and sequence. These are actual lesson plans that align the instruction with the SOL by providing examples of how the essential understandings, knowledge, and skills found in the SOL and curriculum framework can be presented to students. That's right, lesson plans done for you. You can use them as is or tweak them to your liking. They even provide ready-made handouts that you can copy and use with your class. On the DOE website are the released SOL tests and test items. Since you know your students have to take the SOL tests, isn't it part of your duty to prepare them? That doesn't mean mini SOL tests are the only assessment you should use, but isn't it a good idea to teach them those test-taking skills and strategies and get them comfortable with that format? On the DOE website is a link called Instructional Resources with more links to appropriate, useful websites, more lesson plans, worksheets ready to be downloaded and copied and to be used with your students. And there is a link to the SOL Institutes. These are professional development resources to help you refine your skills and improve student achievement through quality instruction. So training for you, that's what that is. Your first task then is to follow the link to the DOE website, find an SOL you'd like to use to begin lesson planning, and unpack it. That means thoroughly look through the standard, the curriculum framework, the blueprints, the scope and sequence, and the released SOL test items. Have fun.